It's Frieren Friday! Oh, I'm sick, and I really want to go to sleep, so no intro. As we see two Borbs show affection to one another, Fern is trying to decide which outfit is better, the black and white or the purple. Needless to say, this one is angry, and thus goes to Granny to ask which would be better. And of course, Frieren makes the wrong move by asking Fern if any of this even really matters. And my dear viewer, if you haven't clocked it by now, Fern does not like simple answers. She wants people to understand her and her every whim before she ever makes her own decision, which, by the way, she already made. The only way you can really win is by simply doing something, I guess. You know, I'd probably not be on Fern's happy list with the way I said any of that. But to make matters worse, Granny is even telling her to do her hair before she goes out. I mean, the audacity. So she gets her hair braided out of anger, like the inconsiderate granny that she is. That's how I imagine Fern reacting to all of that. So she's moved on to the second stage, and eventually the third, and then the fourth. She's all dressed up. She's looking like $1,000,000 for her date with Mr. Stark. And just like any oblivious boy, once he finally sees how the men and women act around them and then back at Fern, he finally gets it. Fern is kinda cute. Which is basically like saying, congratulations, you're breathing manually now. And yes, I'm sorry for that. Better thank me later for not mentioning blinking either. Fern immediately realizes that he's awfully clunky looking now, which I really love that Madhouse decided to skip some of the in-between frames to make him look a bit more rough and choppy, which evokes in Stark his nervousness and realization of his attraction to Fern. But eventually, Fern stops and asks where they're going, which is the marketplace, as she I'm sick. As she eagerly catches up to the poor boy, who will absolutely ruin this somehow, because you know they will when that certain song plays. You know, the do-do-do-do, I think is how it goes. Oh god, I'm delirious. But somehow the topic gets back onto Granny, who has apparently been falling asleep under magical items in a position that I don't even think was possible to fall asleep in. But it is quite odd. Granny seems to never let a good thing pass her by and finds ways to enjoy herself at all times. Like today, and the days before, with her enjoying her time in the hot springs. And with that, Stark freaks up. What the hell am I typing here? Whatever, I'm gonna go with it. And with that, Stark freaks up when Fern comments on topics always bleeding into Granny, and his mistake comes up. What the hell am I saying? And his mistake comes when he says there isn't ever anything else to talk about. Well, what about Fern, Stark, huh? She's purple, Stark. You can talk about her purple hair. What about her purple eyes? What? You think you're better than the color purple now? Take this! Tactical SWAT incoming! It's all over! Well, they arrive at the marketplace and eventually come upon a stall that is giving couples discounts. As Fern goes to pick up the pretty necklace, they go to look elsewhere, but Fern turns back to look at the couple buying themselves a necklace, as she gives a look of longing towards it, and then back at Stark, who wants tasty grub over a happy wife, which is never a good combination. I can just feel the pouting, the all-consuming rage, the absolute explosive energy of a highly disappointed, unheard Fern. God, I live for these moments. They go to grab some more overly sized foods that are bigger than their heads. Fern nearly trips up and face plants, but Stark, ever the gentleman, catches her. Once again, Fern is clearly feeling something here that's different, maybe a bit of vulnerability and tenderness. They go sightsee some more. They both have their preferred deserts. Preferred deserts? Oh god, you know what I'm saying there. Fern gets her pancakes. Stark gets his sundae. That both as kids seems so big to them, but now are still pretty huge portion. What am I typing? Whatever, let's just skip to the part where I make the funny quip and the funny joke. Talk about carbs, calories, and sugars. My friends. What? What in the hell did I type here? I just left it off with my friends? What does that even mean? And as the sun begins to set over the town, and talking about Himmel's statues and how there are hundreds of them, each with a different pose. But that only leads to Fern getting hung up right back up on them talking about Granny. Stark asks why he didn't smile and why she didn't have fun. This leads to a very nice moment where Fern lets it loose that she was disappointed in their date, that she expected a little bit more from it. But Stark tells her that Granny is the one who chose all of this for them because he really wanted to make the date special for her. So at the end, she is happy because he tried so very hard for her and to understand her. Which if we go back to when Granny tried her best to buy a gift for Fern, I think in episode 4 or 5, she told her that she appreciates that she tried to get to know her and most importantly, to understand her, which means, using that subcontext, that Fern is actually quite happy with the overall experience despite it being lackluster, because Stark gave a hell of an effort to understand her. And Fern doesn't forget things like that. And as they poke fun at the weirdly shaped clouds, Fern tells Stark it is surprising to her because she thought she'd never get to relax as she is now, being a war orphan and all. And for this moment, they take their respective authority figures. They take? What is this? Freaking Overwatch? And for this moment, they thank their respective authority figures, Heiter and Eisen. And we see a moment when Stark was younger. Eisen told him that he took him in because that is exactly what Himmel the hero would have done, showing that this time in the hero party, showing that his time in the hero party had truly changed his perception on so many things. Later on, as the two ladies take a bath together, Frieren remembers her time in the hero party. Specifically, the lesson she took from her date with Himmel. That it wasn't about the goal, but the experience they shared with one another. Which, hey, listen, I don't get to stroke my ego that much these days, so I feel pretty great that I picked up on the overall lesson of this mini arc, I guess, in last week's video. And as they begin their travels again, Frieren is sporting a braided hair look. Turns out these braids are for when Fern is in a very good mood, signaling that, hey, maybe Stark didn't do a bad after all. Now in the Nachricht region, still in the northern lands, exiting the volcanic region, they come upon the northern checkpoint. They are given passage because of Fern's status as a first-class mage. Immediately they come to be surrounded and quite easily deal with many of the dangers in a very exciting montage where Stark nearly dies. Which isn't the first time this happens in this episode. Even their shelter is full of danger, which runs them out until they somehow find a village. There they are given a cabin to sleep in, but under the condition that they slay a monster that has taken over the main path. Hearing this, Stark chimes in, wondering just why they'd live here? And the reason is simple, it's because they have always lived here, and they want to continue to create memories here. They eventually find the monster and defeat it, but this was a little bit of a different challenge. This monster was unlike anything they've faced. A truly strong monster that nearly killed them, so Stark suggests they go by sea, but Frieren remembers what Himmel told her when she had suggested the same thing. This is where people live, and thus it is their duty to protect the people there because they have the power to do so. Alright, very sick plug for Gamer Supps. If you want to help me purchase medications for my cold and sickness, Gamer Supps just dropped their Code Vein 2 collaboration featuring new 360-degree art, a desk mat, and more. But if that's not in your wheelhouse of interests, then check out their other merch, which I didn't finish typing, apparently. Well, I mean, you could go to the site and find it, I guess. That's another reason to go there. Of course, I'm going to want to keep this short because I'm sick, and you hear me, I'm dying. So I really want to just go to sleep right now. But this episode overall was quite good. Dare I say, refreshing. Fern and Stark grow closer and closer by the episode in this season, which is nice. I love the details of their own personalities and past coming into play, both being quite prepared for one another thanks to their master's teaching and raising them well. It's quite wholesome, but shows that the divide between Stark and Fern seems to almost be non-existent at this point. Like, yeah, we see at the end he gets called pathetic because Stark is much more sensitive than Fern is, and it plays on the idea that everyone is so oblivious to Fern, but when put in the same situation or position, she doesn't understand just as much as they don't understand. I think for Fern specifically, though, this was her episode. This was clear Fern letting her guard down completely around Stark and maybe not realizing her feelings for him, but because I don't think Stark and Fern are just naturally attracted to one another, so I don't know if any of that matters. I think their attraction is coming over a long period of time and growing up. Ah, it's not a child, it's love! Whatever. It's building over time, you know what I mean. Mostly because Fern has to have people prove themselves to her. But yeah, otherwise, I loved this. The second half was cute as well, and very fun. It's not yet. It's yet another reminder to us, me and you, that we kind of have to unite and support one another as much as we possibly can, especially in these times where we are being ripped apart by so many evil people. But I think it shows that sometimes it's not the goal, it's the journey with other people that matters the most, not the reward you get. Sometimes you just need to take the dangerous road ahead, because others before you have had to take it too. You can't just run away from growth, you kind of have to face it. Even if the path ahead is full of danger, and your potential death or failure is on the table. You just have to take the path that seems so hard and so unrewarding. Why should I take the path if all that means is I'm scared, cold, and tired? See tactics? Well, that's the reason right there. Learn about yourself. See where your limits are. Be a good person, and the world will be good to you and take care of you. But you can't do that if you're sitting inside all day eating Cheetos and being miserable and sad. You can only do that when you go outside and face the real danger. Now, if you'll excuse me, I am so sick, I need to go to sleep. Thank you so much for watching. You can check out my other Frieren content here, and while you're at it, check out my Dawn and Chainsaw Man channels. I'm getting a phone call, making a right turn on. The choice is yours.